Hello and welcome to the Introduction to Quality Improvement training series from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services Office of Clinical Quality Management. My name is Mary Beth Cox. I am a Quality Improvement Coordinator and I will be your facilitator for this series. This is part 4 of a 4-part series, and in this part, we will review examples of the Model for Improvement and Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles in action. If you recall, in the very first video, we talked about a real-life example of somebody who might set an improvement goal for themselves that they need to eat healthier. They may say that they want to improve this by buying more vegetables, and they think this will work because if they buy more vegetables, they're more likely to eat them. However, they were a little unsure about how to know if it would actually get better. Let's take this idea and use a model for improvement and PDSA approach. Let me introduce you to Sandy. Those were her sticky notes. We're going to walk through the focus steps first to help us prepare for our improvement project. She has found an opportunity to improve. She wants to eat healthier. She wants to eat more whole, healthy foods and fewer sugary and processed foods. She has organized a team who understands the process. It is herself. She is a team of 1. To clarify the current knowledge of the process, she will keep a food log for 1 week to better understand her eating habits. Doing this, she is basically doing a root cause analysis. And to make it a little more formal, at the end of each day, she's going to count the number of fruits and vegetables and processed and sugary foods that she eats. And she's going to use this information to identify a change that she can make. Sandy has developed a food log check sheet, a very simple tool that she can fill out at the end of every day. Here you can see her results for her first week. For example, on Monday, she ate 4 sugary and processed foods, which she listed out specifically as 1 soda, 1 candy bar, and 2 helpings of boxed mac and cheese. And she also has listed her fruits and vegetables and how many she ate. On Monday, it was 1 banana. Over the week, she had 36 sugary and processed foods and 7 fruits and vegetables. How could she use this information to inform her change? Here, Sandy is circling back to her focus steps and looking at the results of her root cause analysis. She discovers that, wow, she feels like she drinks a lot of sodas each week and eats fast food more than she would like. She has identified an aspect of the problem she wants to improve, which is her change will be to reduce the number of sodas and increase fresh fruits and vegetables. And she will think about how to not eat so much fast food. Now that she has done the foundational work of going through the focus steps, this brings her to the model for improvement and setting her aim, measure, change, and the plan, which is the first step in the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. She has set her aim that she wants to eat healthier, and in 2 months, she wants to eat 5 more whole, healthy foods and 5 fewer sugary and processed foods each week. She has established her measure that it will be the number of sugary and processed foods and the number of fruits and vegetables that she eats each week. And her first change will be to reduce the number of sodas she drinks to 1 per day or less and add a fresh fruit or vegetable on most days. She's going to continue the food log check sheet as part of her plan, but she's going to track soda separately as it's directly related to her change. Looking further at her plan, she's going to buy a few new fruits and vegetables that she thinks she will enjoy eating. And at the end of the day, she's going to count the number of fruits and vegetables and processed and sugary foods she eats and assess her progress. Here we can see the next food log for Sandy. She has been tracking separately sodas from other sugary and processed foods, and she's continued to track fruits and vegetables. You can see that over the week she had 8 sodas, 20 other sugary and processed foods, and 12 fruits and vegetables. Here, Sandy, in keeping with great quality improvement strategies, has tracked her progress using a graph. So you can see in week 1, for example, she had 23 other sugary and processed foods. In week 2, she had 20, and in week 3, she had 20. For fruits and vegetables, it went from 7 in week 1 to 12 in week 2, and then to 15 in week 3. The number of sodas has gone from 13 to 8 to 7. Here we see Sandy has filled out the rest of her PDSA for her second change. She has continued the food log sheet, and she has still found that it's easy to do. She was able to drink only 1 soda per day. She says it wasn't easy, but she drank flavored water instead, and she bought fruits that she likes and started adding them to breakfast and lunch. In studying her run charts or her graphs, she feels like she is achieving her aim. Her soda dropped from 12 to 7, and her fruit and vegetable intake increased from 7 to 15. Her sugary and processed foods is still at 20, so she wants to think about how to reduce that, probably by not eating so much fast food. So she feels like her next change will be to reduce fast food. Now we are going to wrap up our check-in with Sandy, but let's reflect on this example for a minute. What did you think of Sandy's use of the focus steps? Did those steps help her prepare for doing the model for improvement? What did you think of her use of the model for improvement and the PDSA cycle? Was her aim smart? What did you think of her measure and her use of the check sheet to collect data? Did she use the PDSA cycle the way it is intended? Is there anything that you would do differently or the same? Now we're going to move away from Sandy to looking at a work situation example. So we have an example setting, which is Acme Residential Services. This is a multi-home provider, and they have 50 individuals receiving services. Hopefully you remember the focus steps that we reviewed in the previous videos. We're going to look at how each of the focus steps can help inform the model for improvement and the PDSA cycle for Acme Residential Services. The first step is to find an opportunity to improve. If you look at the graph on the right-hand side of the screen, this is information that Acme Residential Services reviewed at one of their quality committees. It gave them information about the leading risks within their services. They had 17 out of 50 individuals experience multiple falls and trips, which is 34%. They had 13 out of 50 individuals with an elopement event, and they had 12 out of 50 individuals with a UTI. After reviewing these leading risks, they decided to focus on the topic of falls. The next step is to organize a team who understands the process. So they decided to have on their team the quality manager, a registered nurse, the group home managers, direct support professionals, and individuals receiving services. They felt like these people would understand the falls data and be able to contribute ideas about what may be causing the falls. The next step is to clarify the current knowledge of the issue or process, asking who, what, when, and where. So, in this case, they want to clarify knowledge about individuals who experienced multiple falls and trips. They want to look at what types of falls and trips were included in that graph, and they determined that there were level 1, 2, and 3 falls that were captured in the graph. And they defined falls and trips to align with the DBHDS definition of a fall with any situation in which someone descends or falls suddenly or involuntarily toward a lower surface or the ground. They also want to examine who fell and when and where did they fall. Now we are at the step of understanding the cause of the problem or process variation. Here is where you ask why. You can do this by conducting a root cause analysis and using tools like the 5 whys or a why tree, cause and effect or fishbone diagram, key informant interviews, and focus groups, and more. I have a whole video series about doing root cause analysis that you can review as well. So when they did this, they found that the leading causes included individuals having an unsteady gait or poor balance, an individual missing steps or stairs, having slippery floor areas, and obstacles like rugs and tables. So they've arrived at the step where they select the aspect of the problem that they want to improve. This quality improvement team has identified that they want to do 3 things. First, improve signage and visibility of steps, stairs, and other changes in floor height. Second, to reduce access to slippery floors by cleaning up water from rain, spills, and improving traction of slippery floor surfaces. And their third change is to remove all rugs, furniture, and other obstacles in doorways. Since this QI team used all the focus steps, it makes it pretty straightforward for them to answer the 3 questions in the model for improvement. They've identified that their aim is to reduce the percent of individuals who experience multiple falls and trips from their baseline of 33% to 20% or less, which would be 10 or fewer individuals out of 50 by the end of December of 2023. And their start date was January 1st of 2023. So they are taking a year to achieve their aim. Their measure is the percent of individuals who experience multiple level 1, 2, or 3 falls and trips, and they will collect and review the data each month. And then they listed the changes that they identified that they want to make. I want to point out that their measure is a cumulative measure. People have multiple falls and trips, and this happens over time. So the aim is across the whole year. This slide outlines all of the steps that you need to take to do a plan, do, study, act cycle. The previous video was on PDSA cycles, so if you need more information, please go back and review part 3 of this series. So we're going to walk through the plan for change 1, which is removing rugs, furniture, and obstacles, because the team thinks this will be easy, fast, and effective change. They predict that when they conduct a review of pathway obstacles, they will find at least 5 things that need to be removed, and this will help reduce falls. So they outline their tasks, who is responsible, and the timeline for implementation. The tasks include that house managers for houses 1, 2, and 3, and the direct service professionals will conduct a walkthrough of each house to identify obstacles in the way. And they will take 2 weeks to do this from February 1 through the 15th. During the same time frame, they will collect data to study the plan. Then they will remove or resolve any additional tasks to removing pathway obstacles. Finally, at the end of February, they will reconvene to study the results. An important part of your plan is how you will plan to study your change. So for this team, they want to develop a simple tracking log for each house manager to document the observed obstacles and their plans to remove them. and then they will count the number of obstacles that were observed and resulting actions using the log and compile the results. Their simple log is here. They have the date of the review for the house, the obstacle that was observed, whether it was removed or not, and if not, why not, and what are the plans to remove it. Okay, now we are going forward in time and looking at the do part, or what happened. What were the results and lessons learned from implementing or testing their change? They did the walkthroughs. They were conducted as planned. They used the log, except in House 3 where they forgot to use it, but they did improvise and collected all the information. They noted that not all obstacles were easily removed, or not all obstacles were actually thought to be hazards. Here are the results of their study. They observed a total of 12 obstacles. In House A, there were 5, which included a table, 2 rugs, a plant, and a vacuum. In House B, there were 4 obstacles, 2 tables, 1 rug, and 1 shelf unit. And in House C, there were 3 rugs. So the number removed immediately was 8, and 2 were removed at a later date. 10 out of the 12 obstacles were removed. They found that 2 were not removed because there were 2 rugs that they felt were secured to the floor and thought to not be a risk. They noted the things that they learned. They proved their hypothesis by removing at least 5 obstacles. And then they learned that prior to this exercise, several obstacles were not previously thought of as obstacles. For example, the plant was a physical obstacle to walking, but also posed a sight barrier. Some obstacles were thought to not be risks for trips and falls, and this was also a surprise. So we've arrived at the ACT part of the PDSA cycle, which is the A. What is the next step? Typical options are to adopt the change, adapt the change, and abandon the change. This team decided this was a successful effort and decided to move on to their next change. This team has been recording their progress over time and reviewing their data monthly. Remember, their aim was to reduce the percent of individuals who experience multiple falls and trips from 33%, or 17 individuals, to 20% or less, 10 or fewer individuals, by the end of the calendar year. You can see that in January, there was 1 individual. February and March, there were 2 individuals who had had multiple falls and trips. And by April, there were 3. Please note that this is a cumulative measure. People can have multiple falls and trips over time. This is a run chart, or a trend line of the number of individuals with multiple falls and trips. You can see that they noted that their first change to remove obstacles occurred in February. They've also included their goal line and their baseline of the previous year for reference. So we're going to imagine into the future that the team goes through each of their changes and tracks their data over time. So let's look at 1 year later. This is that same graph with the results for the entire year. You can see that they've documented when they implemented each change of removing obstacles. Change 2 was improving signage and visibility, and change 3 was to reduce slippery floors. Over time, you can see that has increased as more and more individuals have experienced multiple falls. And at the end of the year, a total of 13 individuals have experienced multiple falls. Now remember, their goal was 10, so they did not meet their goal, but they did have a lower result than the previous year. Thinking about that fact that the result for the year was 13, or lower than the previous year, but they did not meet their goal, what do you think that means? It might mean that since they had kind of spaced out their changes over the year, they haven't had a chance to really fully impact the population of individuals receiving services. It might also mean that there are other changes that they need to try. So perhaps they need to keep going with this quality improvement project and think about other changes that they need to take based on their root cause analysis. And now we are at the end of the example of Acme Residential Services. Again, let's reflect on this. What did you think of Acme's use of the focus steps? Did it help them prepare for using the model for improvement? And then when they used the model for improvement and the PDSA cycle, what did you think of their aim statement, their changes, and overall, how did you feel about their use of the PDSA cycle? Is there anything that you would do differently or the same? We're almost at the end of this video, so let's do a quick learning check. We have gone through a real-world example and a work example looking at how to use the focus steps, going through aim, measure, and change, or the 3 questions, looking at how to use the PDSA cycle, and tracking data over time. Here are some resources that can help you learn more about the information provided in this video. I want to truly thank you for watching this video and participating in this training series. I wish you the best of luck in your quality improvement efforts.